To je ono što mora postići, da je taj začin što radi razliku između neuspješnog proizvoda, poluuspješnog, čvrtanje uspješnog i neke megaboga. Luka, hoćete li da vi nešto reći o tome?
Pa po meni jednostavno to što bi morao prepoznati prvo šta je proizvod. Znači, dobro prepoznanje proizvoda je su da ćeš još imati ovo što se rekao, četvrtina pola ili uspješnog proizvoda. Vidiš, to ću sad reći, ali ne slušaj,
Ne, niko ne sluša, ti si piše pitanje.
Ovo je krst, resnih proizvoda.
Hoćeš jedna? Ajde vići onda.
Ja bih rekla osjećaj, emocija.
Ne, to je previše fluffy, teško je to.
Da.
Teško je to staviti u KPI, ne ide to u KPI.
Evo, sad ću učiti na nas.
Evo, ništa se
Nekada da si došao pod kraj panela i da nemamo sad pitanja. Prvo sljedeće pitanje bi bilo ako maknemo korisnika iz proizvoda i people, šta nam je ostalo?
Bez ljudi nema problema. Što znači da na teoriji bila, ako makneš i ljude, korisnike i sve, nemaš problema. Ajde ljudi. Ne?
To je to.
To je to.
Ti sjedi.
Tako nisam.
Ok. To our dear UK guests, we sincerely hope that you are going to stand the coffee so we can go to creation. However, this will not be possible. Okay, guys, we are on, we are live. Luca will take it over. Go.
Okay. So, hi everybody. I hope lunch was good. I hope you're all sleepy so I can put you back to sleep all the way. So, my talk today is about how I learned to love product in general and product management in particular. Yeah, or maybe the better question is how I learned to love it. Now, before we start, how many people here come from a product company? Okay, so let's say half. Let's say half-ish. So the rest of you don't come from a product company, the rest of you don't make products, the rest of you don't make sales, nothing? Okay, let's explore that topic about in a few minutes. How do we deal with products and what the rest of you people who do not come from a product company actually do. So, a quick intro about me. I've been involved in the IT industry in various ways for 16, 17 years or so. Working on different industries, moving between different companies, gathering a lot of different experience, and taking on several different roles. Primarily, I started as a developer, and then gradually, as things go along, went through managerial roles, even consultancy, product management, engineering management, and so on and so on. In very distinct industries. Right now, I'm working as a chief technical officer and partner in an insurance industry venture company in the US. Short intro about me. So back to the original question that I posed. What is a product? So a lot of you actually didn't answer that you work in a product company. My first problem with that is that when we answer these questions and split each other between different companies, product companies, agencies, whatever, it tends to blur and highlight differences that really do not exist. So I would like to start with defining what a product is. And based on my experience, this should actually be an animation and not the whole picture, but okay. So I started 16 years ago, 17 years ago, in a small company in Croatia that was beginning of 2000s. I started off as a developer. We worked in language services, we did translations. In this company, we sold consumer translation software. We actually had a box product. Like once a month, the entire company would stop. We would burn CDs, put them in boxes, ship them around the world, and stop whatever we were doing. So this was the only time that I actually had a box product in my hands. After that, I moved to King. There we did bespoke software development for customer stuff for different clients. This will usually work enterprise systems that we built and maintained for decades. Some of them are live now, so some of them are now 20 years old, still running. And there I went from development roles to managerial roles, let's say, leadership roles, so team leads, engineering heads, and so on and so on. And we, like I said, we built those enterprise systems. After that, moving on to university labs, so it's the security industry. There was a service lead. We had appliances, so physical boxes that went into server racks, and we had API to ourselves. So here, my role as a service lead included, for the first time for me, responsibility for the overall product. So I had product managers working for me, I had project managers working for me, developers working for me, the whole shebang that enables us to deliver the API services and everything that we had. Then financial industry, so next MPS. There I was product development lead. I came in as the director of software development or something like that. And while we were there, we moved to SAFE. I'm not happy about that, but we moved to SAFE, top-down decision, and that was it. So I became a product development lead in one of the streams. My stream there had about 120 people or so. Again, all the product managers, product owners, and so on and so on, and we did transaction processing mostly. So MGS Nets is a transaction processor for PRODUCTWORLD, or in Sao Paulo in Central Eastern Europe. Then after that, Amplexor pharma industry. Again, product development leads, director of software development role. We delivered document and workflow management systems, either on-premise or in cloud. And after that, latest thing, me and my partner started up a venture company in InsurTech, where we sell self-service insurance in the US market. So this last line, I didn't mention this last line here. When we look at this table and say what is a product or what is not a product by the, let's say, a standard definition, I would say first job, like we had a box product, definitely a product. Second, bespoke software development, not so much a product, whatever, service, something. Reversing labs, yes, we had services that we sold, but we also had appliances that were physically shipped out, so maybe a product half on half. Next, transaction processing, not so much a product, more of a service. Amplexor, a product that was installed, shipped out to customers and stuff like that. Here in the last thing, maybe a product, maybe not a product. We do some bespoke development, something, it's a mixed bag. And so, why is this important? So all these companies that we say we're not a product company still did sell stuff, and people still bought stuff. And if they didn't buy products, what did they actually buy? And that brings me to the definition of a product. And for some reason, okay. So I remember this. So product is any item or service that you sell to service to meet the customer's need. So product isn't a box. Product isn't something that you install on the computer. Product is anything that anybody buys from you. Like we mentioned before, this lunch was a product. My talk is a product. This conference is a product. I'm selling you my talk. You're not buying it necessarily, but I'm selling you my talk. It's a product. Okay, so everything that we do, everything that we interact is a product. Projects, on the other hand, are the way how we get to that product. So me traveling from Zagreb to here today was a project. It had a timeline, it had a budget, everything was implicit, of course, but it is a project. And the end result is maybe my talk here. And that's why I asked the question in the beginning. If we sell something, we sell a product, regardless of what we feel like it. And every company is a product company. And taking that into account and looking at this table, this last line could be then maybe replaced by something along the lines of this. Okay? So these are just product taglines that I picked. There can be some other product taglines that don't really matter. So the first one, provide correct translation. That is our product. This is what we sold. We didn't sell the software. Nobody bought the software from us. We sold correct translations. That doesn't matter. Support public infrastructure, secure my network business, enable my life, enable product to market, protect maintenance. Okay? And some of these lines, some of these taglines might be a bit over the top, somebody might say. So enable my life, people working in the financial industry, in banking, know what this means. Why does it enable my life? Because if your credit card doesn't work, you cannot buy food, you can pay electricity, you cannot do anything. You cannot buy gas, you cannot do anything. And all of this, or protect all of these products can then be very life-altering and very life-threatening. Now, if my cell phone doesn't work for one day, I don't care. If my credit card doesn't work for one day, that could be a problem. Okay? So when we think about what we're doing and what we are actually working in a company, it's very important to understand the perspective of the product we're selling in terms of what we are enabling the customer, not what the customer is buying from us, what she's paying, what we are enabling. So banks enable you to have it in life, or to do something in life as well. Okay? And that brings us to the next point. When you look at all those guidelines, they have something in common, and it's kind of summed up in this quote. So nobody ever got fired for buying IBM. So this is a famous scientific quote. If you buy from big companies, big names, no matter what you buy, you're not going to get fired. And the point of this is that it's not mentioning any single product, what people call a product. It's not mentioning any single box. It's mentioning IBM as a name. So the entire quote is based on IBM's reputation. And all those taglines there were based on reputation. They were not based on feature A, feature B, feature C. I want to have a bank where I know that I will be able to access my money at any given time. I want to have a security appliance in my network that I know will not allow ransomware into my system. So you buy reputation. But whatever we do, we buy reputation, and we consume that reputation. So again, for instance, this conference. So one conference, through our talks, for this and that, we'll build some reputation. And based on that reputation, next year there will be 200 people in this room or 50 people in this room. Okay, so this is what we are selling and buying. So 200. Okay. And why is this important to understand is studies show that people are willing to pay for reputation more than for features. Okay? So consumers, this is a quote from a Sydney University study, consumers were willing to pay 9% more for larger TV sizes, but 22% more if that came from a reputable brand, the brand that they thought was reputable. Okay? So that's 22% on top for the same product. That's a quarter more revenue for the same product. Okay? This, of course, comes from marketing, mostly because people think the reputation is about marketing and stuff like that, but it's much more than marketing itself. Okay? And understanding this helps us to achieve more revenue, more roadings with our customers, more everything, just by building the correct reputation. The reputation here is not about the reputation of your product itself, just like, is it working or not working, does it have all the nice features, whatever. It's about the company as well. So the company culture, the company belief, how people perceive the name of your company. Let's say IBM. How do people perceive the name of IBM? 20, 30 years ago, somebody would buy IBM without looking. Today, not so much. Okay? And then that brings us to another important question that says, who manages this in a company or your company or whatever? who manages, if we define the product as a reputation that is built out of your outward experience, outward appearance of the company, who manages this in a given company? Is it product managers, is it CEOs, who is the person that is taking the accountability and responsibility for this entire thing? So, who among you here are product managers or product something by role name, job description? How many of you are? Okay, great. So more than half, I would say. So it's interesting that there's more people that are product managers and that are not working in product companies. Okay. Now, out of you who are product managers, how many of you are responsible for marketing, sales pipeline, strategic vision, direction of the product for in the next 5 years? So less than a quarter of that number is responsible for out of all the product managers raise their hand, less than a quarter is responsible for that. And how many of you then are responsible for support, maintenance, accountable, not responsible, accountable for support, maintenance process? So, okay, a bit more. So, and that's interesting because all of those interactions that happen impact the reputation of your product. And if you're not accountable as a product manager for that, it's very interesting to understand how do you manage the overall reputation of the product, of the company, of the whole thing. Okay. So again, what is in your product? What makes your reputation? So we have the features, capabilities, great. That's what we mostly talk about. Roadmaps, backlogs, stuff on the features. I don't know, people buy features. That's where the money is, right? And the question is that where the money is? Okay. So, like the questions I asked: customer service, support, performance, security, compliance. These are the things that usually are not in the under the responsibility and the accountability of the product manager. Security compliance is done by some security compliance team, right? And they instruct engineers to build that. They fight around this, you know, in all the companies that I've been, this is one of the biggest ones, right? Ability to adjust organizationally, your ability to adjust as a product manager, your organization, your ability to deliver, your ability to live up to expectations. Is this all in your line of accountability? How your organization performs, your that is taking care of this product. What is the ease of doing business with you? What are the costs associated? What are the revenues associated? Return on investments, all this stuff, is that in all of your responsibility? And there's plenty more here to come where usually product managers are excluded from it. Today we talked about, I think somebody mentioned, product managers sometimes get the responsibility over their P&L. You cannot be a product manager without the responsibility of P&L for your product. Now, you're playing with somebody else's money. And if you are not responsible for the P&L of your product, and all of these things impact your P&L, you could or maybe are making the wrong decisions because you do not have the entire picture in your purview. Okay? So the question would then be, who manages the reputation? So this is a diagram how things look in some companies. There could be other variations of this, but usually somehow around all of this happens. So there's a sales team, there's product management, there's engineering, there's delivery, customer success, customer service, and so on and so on and so on. So maybe some are missing, maybe some are additional to this, it doesn't really matter. But the point is that usually any product or project will start itself as product management and procurement from the customer side, discussing something. We want this, we need this, we need a solution for this, or whatever. And we have a solution for you, this is our solution for you. Right? If you're missing some features, we'll push it onto engineering will build it. Once we do the deal, once we sign the contract, then everything will get pushed to delivery and implementation, delivery and implementation, and then implement it with the customer, build, training, whatever, manuals and so on, onboard the customer, after that push it over to customer success, end users, and customer service. Okay? So this is kind of a trajectory that happens most of the time. Now, these people in circle in the red that says product management as a team, they're just one thing here. And how much influence do they have over all of this? So if they're not accountable for customer service, what happens in customer service? How fast is the customer service to resolve issues? How happy are users with that support service? How happy are with the sales service? How happy are, and so on and so on. If they're not accountable for that, they may be making uninformed decisions, focusing on features and not focusing on building features that will help their support team answer support questions faster or whatever. So for instance, an interesting thing in a company called 37 Signals is they don't have product managers, they have features owners. Everybody can propose a feature, they as a company then make a decision which feature they build. Okay. But the interesting thing there is that if you make a feature, if you make a wish request, let's say I want to answer support in 1 day. Every support ticket needs to be closed in 1 day. This is a common thing that every company wants to do. And that's an easy thing to say. I make a wish, I want it to be in 1 day. Right? What's the hard part there is building the organization, building the structure, building the tools, building the whatever, that you actually be able to do that. And that deserves if that impacts the reputation of your product, that impacts the user experience, interacting with your product, interacting with your company, that is something that the product manager should actually make a decision. Is it worthwhile investing on this, or we don't care about this? It's not a blanket statement that can say, oh, I wish that. So we need to have a wish, and we need to have an investment into making that wish come to life. And this is the essence of tenant management. We have one part is wishing for things, the other thing is managing them to come to life. And managing them to come to life involves having people, having physical resources, having budgets, having everything at your disposal that you can make a decision then and say, I will go this direction because this will improve my customer relationship. So what we have, for instance, found on our own example is that we can push bugs to production, right? We can push bugs to production and our customers won't mind. If and only if when they report it, we fix it in 1 hour. They won't care. They will say, okay, no, they will say, great service. We found an issue, you got back to us in 1 hour, said fix it. And this is something why we heavily invested in building a flow, what we call DevOps flow, whatever, that enables us to do this. Somebody picks up a ticket, fixes it, deploys it in 1 hour. Nobody cares if you have a bug in production. Okay? And all of these things then need to be made as a conscious decision. If you do not have that one person who manages this, usually in a company like this, if these are separate departments or whatever, then the product manager would be then the CEO. The CEO would then be sitting in a meeting with all of his directors, whatever he's something, which will be pointing at each other, and support will say, oh, we cannot lower the support times because development doesn't want to give us something, and sorry. And somebody else doesn't want to give us something, and so on and so on. And then the CEO will be saying, oh no, we're going to invest here, we're going to invest there, we're going to invest there. And this is a product managerial decision. So in that case, the CEO is the product manager. The people who call product managers are not actually product managers. Now I know that this might offend somebody, but I'm sorry, that's my opinion. Okay? So if I'm making decisions, where do we invest, where do we allocate time, where do we do stuff like that, then I'm the product manager. If I'm responsible for the P&L, then I'm the product manager. If I'm responsible for the reputation, if I'm the one who goes out to the customers and say, sorry, we messed up, then I can be the product manager. If I don't have to do that, then I'm a person doing something else. I'm very valuable for sure, but I'm not product manager. Okay? So, part 3, how to love product managers. So when going through this and preparing for this talk, I kind of realized that the problem isn't really product managers. When I started as 10 years ago, I would really pissed at my product managers, if I had them, and say, you guys, how do you not see this coming in? why did you make this stupid decision, and why, and stuff like that. What I didn't understand the circumstances in which product managers work. And the fact is that they did not have the liberty or the ability to make those correct calls. They worked in some context. They didn't expect them to make those correct calls, and didn't drive them, and didn't force them to experience and invest in support or compliance or security or something else. Okay? And usually, when that happened, it was a fight. There was always a fight. And you have that very famous meme that shows how different people in IT companies see each other. And everybody's the best, and everybody else is the worst. Okay? And this is what happens. Why does it happen? Because people, they make decisions like context. So how do we learn to love the product? How do I learn to love the product? First of all, I need to understand this. And it took, for me, a decade to understand this. Maybe for somebody else much shorter. Maybe I'm slow. But to understand that mostly in IT, when we call people product managers, we call people something else in roles, they are not given the full accountability, end-to-end responsibility, and all of that for that role they have. They've given a chunk, they talk about features, but they don't talk about something else. Okay? And that creates a lot of strife, a lot of issues, a lot of finger pointing, a lot of. I think somebody before me had this company on company thing. Well, I agree that's a problem. In general, I do believe that's a better way to approach product management. Next one would be then on changing. So changing the organization in a way that Congress ball works for you and not together. So that you have an organization that is structured in a way that it's only about the reputation of your product. Okay, it's about your product. And the product here isn't necessarily the thing you're selling to your customers. The product here, and we also had that on a talk before, the product here is your internal ability to execute something, your internal ability to change, your internal ability to build something, your culture, your whatever. This can also be a product. So all these things need to change in order to structure the company so that it focuses on the product. And people often complain how we started this initiative, nothing changed in this initiative, and we didn't make any improvements initially. Did you structure everything according to fulfill that initiative? Did you put the people behind that initiative? Did you organize it as a product so you can launch it? Usually no. Usually it's something on the side. We do features, and this is something that we happen. Okay. So what we did, we purposely started to engineer our company against the product, but we purposely started to engineer our company in a way that everything that is important enough that we talk about it becomes its own product now. Okay? So it doesn't really matter if it's a software product, is it a culture product, is it something that becomes its own product now. Now that might, like, in 10 years or 5 years, seem bad, because we're going to scale and everything's going to be a problem, but for now it seems to be working well. Because then we are talking about priorities between products, and we're talking about are we investing in this product or not, and we're not talking about, do you have enough people or do I have enough people? It's about where do we invest money in which product bucket. And products can change, and they will change. We already changed our product lineups 5 times, reorganized. No big deal. People didn't lose their identity. It worked well. So changing the organization to put the products as first-class citizens is extremely important. And even in service companies, product is earn a reputation, your ability to execute some service. That is your product. Organize around that. Next step is then being empowered. So we deliberately said from get-go, beginning day one, people that we call product managers get their own P&L. They get to be their own company in a company. They get to be their own entrepreneurs, let's say. Okay? That is scary. That is bad in the sense that not everybody is able to do that. People need a lot of time to get to that point. But the only way for them to get to that point is by doing it. So you get your own P&L, you get your own team, you get everything. Everybody works with you. We are the company. Everybody works with you. Everybody helps you. Everybody mentors you. But everything is in your box. You own it. You're accountable. You work on it. And what came out of that for us is that people responded to this very positively. They said, okay, they started thinking about what do I make as a product? What is my profit? What is my revenue share? What is my whatever? They started to think about it, and the team collectively started to understand if we do this, we won't be able to do that. And that will cost us money. And that will cost us money. And where do we invest? And stuff like that. That meant that goes all the way down to the level of developers. So developers understand if we mess around with something and try to make it pixel perfect, and that is not important, that we are burning money, and that goes into our P&L, and that means that, I don't know, we don't get bonuses, doesn't really matter. They get bonuses, but it impacts their success rate, and they're measured on that. They're measured on other things, of course, but not only on the money side, but they're measured on other things. And decisions are driven a lot by that. Now, the question comes here, what about them? Doesn't that prime people to just allow in things that somebody will buy, not think it will be in 5 years, 10 years, and so on? Yes, of course it does. And we try to combat that in different ways, but it closely relates their success and their delivery with how much is that actually valuable on the market to the end users. If you're building something that doesn't solve somebody's problem that somebody's willing to pay, you will have a better P&L and you will kill the product market and move people elsewhere. Okay? That helped us a lot, and so far it helps us a lot. We'll see how it goes when it scales. But it drives large profit margins for us as a company. Okay? And empowering not only product management, the entire product organization as such is the only fundamental thing that we needed to do and change. Okay? And that would be it.
Couple of questions for Luca. Okay, you were actually just a half a second faster.
Okay, thanks, Luca. This is really great to see. And when it scales,
Yeah.
So usually, I'll share my experience and then you can comment. Usually you have product line director and he's or she P&L responsible.
Yes.
But you can't put that kind of responsibility to the people who are just entering, right? But then you know, revenue, P&L, that's a lagging thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put something leading metrics on the let's say lower levels. But I am 100% agree with P&L responsibility, or in some terms, if it's internal infrastructure product or cost responsibility, doesn't matter. But end to end, definitely for whatever you do.
I would say, so this is the part of scaling that I said. So if you're a small company, like we are, let's say, you're a small company. So we have products that are manned by 10-man teams. Okay, so everything's very evident. If you have a P&L, you don't have a hierarchy. There's one person and a team there, so everybody knows about it, and we don't have the problems. This is the part where I say when we come to scaling, we're going to see problems. We would like to scale horizontally rather than vertically, but then it's about slicing products and how do you slice stuff, and it becomes messy. That's why we said you don't want to be in a company of more than 50 people. That's it. 50 people, done. So we problem solved. Problem solved. On the other part, when you said the leading metrics from below, we need to have them. We have them, but more as input for themselves to understand, like if our P&L is going bad, let's say, from where does that come from? You know, are they not? Why are customers not happy? Why are they not selling? Is it just that we're not in the proper market, or did we miss the board? Is our reputation bad? Or whatever is happening, just for them to understand it. As well on the cost side, if we are spending too much to develop a feature, and then we get into the famous word of technical debt. Technical debt doesn't exist. Technical debt is simply something that you did or did not invest in your piece of software. So if you're over time taking more and more time to build a feature, and the metrics show it, that's why the costs go up, then we need to go and see what do we need to do to fix that or whatever. So both sides can be addressed, but it's for us more metrics for the team and not for, let's say, management.
I just have to comment one more thing and then I will stop. Reputation equals brand, because brand is not marketing. That's something that I needed to say.
Yes.
Brand is everything. Everybody in the company is actually building or destroying brand.
Yes.
Right? So that's just because I work a lot with the marketing people and it's kind of an offense to say that brand is just marketing.
No,
Brand is just marketing.
absolutely, yes, absolutely.
Second question.
This one's that.
Yeah.
Let's do this one.
No, this is good. Right, so just to touch on the first point, you were defining the product, so yeah, me as well, similarly, I had one or two aspects. So if you have a scope, delivery terms, if you have price tag, yeah, it's a product. So in that service, physical product, whatever, it's a product. I don't agree that the product manager should have a P&L responsibility. I come from an organization where there is approximately 20,000 of us. We have products with extremely long life cycle, up to 50, 60 years. And each and every product line is supported by very different functions, like sales support, product management, contract management, lifecycle agreements, everything. So I think that single most important thing of each and every product manager, regardless of product or product type, should be responsible / accountable for is the product value propositions. So basically, understanding, being an expert in the market, its products are actually, living. So we need to really understand in depth which are the value characteristics that our products are enabling or are delivering to our customers, and the core function of the product manager is to understand that. And then to translate it into the organization correctly, in order for the organization to create an output, which is a product that delivers those experiences. How would you comment on that?
Okay, I agree with that. But again, I don't believe that you can make a correct decision. I mean, you can make a correct decision, but I don't believe you can make as good a decision if you're not responsible for the entire cycle, for the entire period. Yeah. So in this instance, when you mentioned we have a product manager, there is sales, contract management, risk management, whatever happening here. How do you know as a product manager that you're not moving your product as much as you would like to move it because your contract negotiation stuff?
Well, I have reports.
Okay, but they're working for you. They're your subordinates, let's say.
Okay, sorry,
So-
what's my product?
We need to-
What's my product? How am I going to deliver you guys the value?
By entertaining.
Yeah, okay, I don't know that. I can do entertaining all the time long. So, a big applause for Luca, and then a big applause for
Hi everybody. Okay, it works. My name is Opatija. I come from Lemax. For those of you who haven't heard about Lemax, it's enterprise level B2B system for the travel industry. My background is in engineering. I'm an ex-developer. Over time, I had the chance to work in various business roles, and currently I'm leading the product management team at Lemax. First things first, yesterday Scott gave a presentation. At some point, he mentioned something on his slides, brain science. And I was afraid that he would steal the stage from me because my presentation is exclusively focused on brain science. A question for you. Raise your hands if you have any kind of experience related to psychology, behavioral science, if you are familiar with cognition, cognitive biases, if you have explored such topics. Okay, there are A few hands, great. Okay, let's start then together. So, cognition. There are a lot of different interpretations, terms from scientists, psychologists, neurologists, what cognition is. To cut it short, cognition is the umbrella term for every process that our brain is processing internally. So attention, decision-making, perception, memory, etc. Problem solving, you name it. What would be then cognitive bias? The same thing, but with a special attention to save resources, save time, to optimize the overall process of, again, cognition, decision-making, problem-solving, attention, memory management, etc. In literature, cognitive biases are usually referred to as mental shortcuts, when the brain wants to cut it short to come to a final destination. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Why the impulse? What triggered me to talk about this, to share this with you? Well, a lot of discussion over the last 2 days, yesterday and today, are focused on product management and delivering value, delivering products, features, platforms, and so on. I wouldn't agree that the primary outcome of product managers, product people, are those things. They are certainly important, high on the priority list. However, those are not our key outcomes. Our key outcomes are decisions. Decisions that we make on a weekly basis, monthly basis, daily basis, hourly basis. When our decision-making processes are flawed due to certain mental shortcuts, due to overload in information, due to time constraint, quality of the information, availability of the information, then we tend to subconsciously make mistakes. Mistakes that can affect our job, but also the work of our colleagues, our company, our teams. So, without blabbering about definitions, I would like to guide you through a story that hopefully a lot of you can relate, at least in certain points. There was a company, I won't name it, maybe an imaginary company, that had a product, a complex, a really big B2B product. It's not important what the product was, in which industry. What's important, what the product wasn't supposed to do at the very start. Finance management, accounting, you know, the boring stuff, invoices, accounts payable, accounts receivable. It was not intended that that product covers this. At some point, the user base, the client base, named the product not financially compliant. But there was a market opportunity to refurbish the product, to make the clients and the users of that product happy. Why? Because, again, market need showed that this large enterprise-level system would be even better. It could justify the price if it were financially compliant. Great. So the management took internally the initiative to change that. Now, a team was assembled to make that happen, to satisfy the users. They started to plan how to achieve that. They knew already that the market opportunity is there. They knew what the problems were because throughout the years they gathered the feedback of the users. They knew the scope was big to horizontally refurbish the platform. However, they knew what should, at least to some extent, be done. So they said, okay, we are afraid of waterfall principles, analysis paralysis, etc. We are agile. Let's start. Let's time box ourselves to a 6 months period. We can do it. A team of 10, 15 engineers can make it happen. Okay. Then the development started. Business as usual, you know, the product people started to interviewing users. They knew, again, the list of the requirements, of the complaints. They validated it with the users. The developers started to work immediately. They knew what they need to do on the foundation, on the infrastructure, etc. The QAs started to write the tests. At some point, after a couple of months, the lead developer came to the product manager responsible for this initiative and said, hey, we need to refactor something. What? Our reporting engine won't scale, so we need to refactor the underlying code. Do we need it? Yes, of course, the developer will say that we need it. Okay, the next question from the product manager was, will we make it in time? And he said, well, maybe a couple of weeks will be delayed, but it's a 6-month initiative, who cares? And also we don't have a hard deadline towards any client because, again, it's internal. Okay, proceed. Then, after the planned 6 months, what they planned to do, to talk with the users, to show and tell them, to demo them the system, the new system, financially compliant. And, to no surprise, the UAT was delayed. Why? Because of the refactoring, partially. The developers actually made it in time. What happened? What they didn't take into account, that the QAs had to again manually test it because of the impact area, because they rewrite the code underneath and it impacts the whole system, then you need to re-click it again. So the QAs were late about a month. Then they showed it to the users, and the users said, well, it's better than it was. However, we cannot make for sure that it works, that it meets the financially compliance, etc., yada, yada, yada. Give us some test instances, some test demos, we will do the homework ourselves. Again, the users are not working in the company. They're not inclined to start immediately testing. They took some time. It took almost 2 months from them to gather all the feedback. Makes sense, after all. It resulted in a pretty large gap list. There were bug reports, there were wishful thinking features, there were nebuloses, ridiculous features, there were a lot of questions, a lot of suggestions, idea management, etc. Okay, so what then? Well, the team went back to the drawing board. They took all the list and they figured out, okay, well, a lot of these things make sense actually. What should we do? Well, have I lost it? Okay. Let's redefine the project. Okay. They went through the list, they prioritized, and well, then another 3 to 6 months of work to make it happen. Because they now have overcomplicated the code. Okay, what now? Well, let's make a POC, let's make an MVP, let's make a phase 1, phase 2, phase 17. We'll manage it somehow. Now, they started to be nervous how to come towards the management for extra 6 months. Somebody actually had the guts to say, people, you have it under control. Should we pull the plug? I mean, a 6-month project, already late 3 months, now you are asking for 6 months more. Where's the catch? No, they fiercely defended the project. It brings a lot of value, a lot of good things are implemented in the behind. We should continue. Of course, nobody pulled the plug on the project. They continue. Fast forward, what happened after those additional 6 months? They actually delivered the initiative on production. They disassembled the team. They remained, they left a couple of people to maintain it in production and to listen for the feedback. Overall, it was internally within the team considered a failure. They were not happy what they had built and published on production. Of course, they have accumulated a lot of scar tissue and they were at the very end insecure because they as engineers failed utterly almost 3 times the initial timeline. Are these situations familiar to at least some degree? Raise your hands. Okay, a lot of hands. let's explore what actually happened here. So, in the planning phase, when they started to plan, did they actually plan? No, of course they didn't. They introduced the first cognitive bias, the first mental shortcut that the brain triggered because they were eager to start, and it's called the planning fallacy. The planning fallacy is our natural predisposition to underestimate the effort, the time, and the resources that we need to conduct a certain task or a certain project. Happened to me a lot of times. Then, the next thing that happened, they underestimated the work that they need to do in terms of scope, and they overestimated their own abilities. Now, the overconfidence bias kicks in. To put it simply, it's our natural inclination to feel, to overestimate our own abilities, period. In the business as usual, in the product development stage, when they started to work, they needed to start ASAP. There is a market opportunity, we should start immediately. Now, the building bias kicks in. That's a tendency to value more actually doing something rather than preparing and planning for the actual task. We're not talking here about analysis paralysis and waterfall preparation, but rather I want to plot those productive hours. I want to execute something, not sitting and planning. That's the building bias that kicks in. Then, afterwards, when the product manager started to interview the people, I didn't emphasize it, intentionally not, but he took the gap list over the years that was aggregated from the users in terms of the financial compliance. He took it, he filtered it out, and came towards the users and said, here is the problem statement, I want to fix it in this or that way, what do you think? The users said that what the users heard were, problem will be solved. Okay, proceed. And that happened during those discovery workshops, those validation workshops. The product manager here had a confirmation bias. That is our tendency to seek out informations, evidence that support our ideas, our hypotheses, our thoughts. And then either consciously or unconsciously deflecting from the contradictory evidence that doesn't support, that doesn't play along. That led to a lot of chaos afterwards. And one thing in regards to the refactoring part that I mentioned, they thought they will make it even though they added additional scope right between the project. Overconfidence bias again, because they overestimated themselves, underestimated the work. When it comes to the user feedback, so, okay, they knew what they had to do because over the years they heard a lot of complaints regarding the system. However, still the product manager made a lot of assumptions. A lot of assumptions about what the users actually need. And then there was the domain knowledge problem. And that is called, in psychology, the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's a situation where an individual is behaving like an expert even though he doesn't have a certain degree of skills, ability, or domain knowledge. In this case, our product manager is not a finance guy, he's not an accounting guy, but he thought that he knew the best. Alongside that, survivorship bias. I hope that a lot of you have heard the story about the plane, survivorship bias, yada, yada, yada. Here, the product manager took care only of the information that survived over time, that somebody bothered to actually document on Jira, on Confluence, on Google Drive. He went only through that list. But there is a big amount of data, information, use cases that nobody bothered to explore, that perhaps the users didn't even bother to report over time, or is simply got lost. That's our inclination to only seek out and work on the data that is in front of us, that is available ignoring what actually might be under the hood. Then, when the gap list arrived, in the redefinition phase here, we have, when somebody said, will we pull the plug? Sunk cost policy. Sunk cost policy, where they continued to work on that project, even though it doesn't has a bright future. Why? Because they spent too much resources, too much time. It's a sunk cost. We don't want to do that. We want to make something work. They should have perhaps put it on the trash can. And one thing, when they started to defend the project, they went into the defense mode, the product manager and the developers. What happened here? It's called the IKEA effect. You know, when you purchase something from IKEA, you usually build it or assemble it yourself. Then you look at the chair or the table, and it's the biggest, nicest table or chair that you can possibly have in your living room. Why? Because you built it. The IKEA effect is our tendency to overvalue stuff that we have done, that we have contributed to building. We are not objective to the quality of the final product because we have ourselves invested in it. That's a common mistake that people who build something usually do. At the very end, the scar tissue accumulated due to the failure of the overall project and the insecurity that the team felt afterwards led to two things. I'd like to introduce here the negativity effect and the execution capability bias. The negativity effect is our predisposition to only to value higher risks or negative stuff that is in front of us, rather than seeking out opportunities. That combined with the execution capability bias, which is quite the opposite from the overconfidence bias from the very start, leads us to have multiple buffers that are not actually necessary because we are afraid, to multiple validation meetings, to develop something, and we give a timeline of 6 months, even though we perhaps need 2 or 3. Why? Because we are afraid. We constrain ourselves. This is only a short example of around 10 common mental shortcuts that can be found in any type of an IT project. However, psychologists categorized over 100 different mental shortcuts that happen constantly in our brains. They categorized it in 4 different groups, which are important to observe. The first group is too much information. We are in a constant cognitive overload with data, with information, and our brain wants to optimize that. How? He wants to save on resources because the RAM memory of our brain is not unlimited. So what does the brain do? It optimizes it. How? To make us only notice anomalies, changes, repetitions, stuff that we have already seen, or stuff that confirm our hypothesis ideas. So the first stage is our brain, from a bunch of info, takes a certain amount and then proceeds to a later stage. Later stage, the not enough meaning stage, comes because of the fact that we took only a partial info from the previous step. So what do we do? Because we cannot perceive gaps naturally, what does our brain do? It fills the gaps. With what? With certain patterns, with certain generalities, with stuff that we assume. So we add our own little ingredients to the pre-filtered information which was already partial. Then, due to the fact that we are constantly short on time, we need to move along. Yesterday, a lot of mentions about we are short on time, we need to make decisions fast, we need to be agile. Okay, you give me partial info, I add something myself, and then I need to make a decision. Okay, better done than perfect, right? Okay, so we proceed. Our brain then again optimizes the processes. How? By assuming that we are right, that we can do this, that we have the ability to do that, and we assume happy flows. what can possibly go wrong. And then, to close the loop, we don't have enough permanent storage. So the brain, again, optimizes the process. It saves space by remembering and storing in our permanent storage only by generalizing certain situations, by keeping certain examples that we confidently pull on the table whenever we need it, and by keeping certain elements of a situation without the surrounding context. And that is a vicious circle. It's a continuous loop that we are constantly into. And every stage is reinforcing the latter stage. That's simply how our brain works. So, but again, to end on a more positive note, we can tackle these situations. How? First step, be aware that we are all susceptible to cognitive biases. Every one of you is susceptible to cognitive biases. Somebody is more, somebody is less, but it's how our brain works. Then, what can help us challenge ourselves and others? Ask and validate with others your ideas, your assumptions, your perception, and what you perceive. Ask, play devil's advocate with each other. Explore cases that don't support your idea. Don't act as an expert on everything, because you certainly are not an expert on everything, especially if you switch domains every couple of years, and you don't need to be an expert. Collaborate. Don't assume too much. If you don't know something, if you're not sure in something, ask somebody. Ask a professional that has an SME expertise in a certain domain. Personal attachments aside, just like every architect doesn't end up having his design built into Dubai, it gets in the trash can, your products perhaps are also going to fail. And that's perfectly fine. They cannot all live up in production. Personal attachments aside. Also, don't focus too much on past experiences. It's okay to learn from past, but don't be stuck in the past. If you have succeeded before, it doesn't mean that you will succeed again. However, if you have failed before, it doesn't mean that you will fail again. But learn something from it. Don't be inclined to stick in the past. And to summarize, it's simply the biology of our brain. That's how things work. We cannot escape that. But we can, with these suggestions, keep our brain in check. Label those situations. It's easier when you label somebody and say, you have perhaps the IKEA effect, rather than telling you are personally attached to your product. Label those situations, talk about them, and improve your decision-making processes to build products and features with more success. Thank you very much.
Question for Matija. How did this behavioral heuristic knowledge help you in everyday work and managing your team?
When I realized that those things happen in front of us every day, then we started to label them. You are now overconfident. You are now in a sunk cost policy. That helped us because we labeled those situations. We trained ourselves how to catch each other in those situations so that we can detect them early on and prevent a catastrophe. That, without that, would probably happen.
How many of you? How many in the team?
Well, currently there are 10 of us, but over the years, 10 of us in our product team, but over the years, in Linux, we experienced a lot of these biases, and we are currently still experiencing them. Because the teams, not only product people, engineers, QAs, management, everybody is susceptible to that. We talk about that, and we try to recognize and try to put up on the board and say, please, let's not do that, because we will make a suboptimal decision, which can lead to a chaos.
So it's like a trainer. You continuously train people to perceive it.
I wouldn't say train, because that would imply that we have workshops, that we have scripts and stuff like that. We talk about that. We talk, it's simply, we try to injected in the overall team culture. That's how these things work. You cannot train somebody to bypass your biases. You simply need to be aware, talk about them whenever they happen, mention them. People will then gradually start to perceive it in their colleagues, but also in themselves.
Any questions? Then please big applause for Luca.
I'm sorry. Already thinking about keep going.
So, hello, product world. Okay, for warm up, let us see slides. For warm up, I prepared one question for all of you. So, what's the hardest part of being a product manager? How many of you know the answers? I tell you what is it. It's explaining what you do to your parents and friends. It's definitely one of the most the hardest part of being a product manager. So I'm here to try to transfer my feelings and my emotions about different view of who we are actually and what we really do. And to cover this topic in front of you, I was inspired by one story. Before 2 years ago, I was in one event. It's my nephew's first birthday, and this was a huge event, about 60 people. I know maybe 20 of them. And I don't know actually the reason, but in those events, we always separate into groups, a male group and a female group. I don't know a particular reason, but they're almost always like that. And in the male group, we're always talking about football, sport, and what we do for a living. On the other corner, in the female group, they all talk, I don't know exactly what they talk, because I've never been there, but okay. So I'm standing in that group of people, I know a few of them, and we cover the football, and we cover the sport and everything, so here comes a question. Oh, what do you do for a living? So one friend of mine is a truck driver, so easy. I'm driving a truck. No, okay. A second one is a musician, he's playing in a band, so easy. Third one is a chef, he's all day in the kitchen. So Igor, what do you do? I'm a product manager. Because I hope that there are no more questions. No, product manager, wait, what do you do? And a friend who is a truck driver jumped over me and said, he's on a meeting and he's sending emails all day. And I have been a little upset in that moment and said, wait a bit, I'm trying to explain to you. For example, and I'm explaining to them like this, imagine you are on the wedding. So you are the truck driver. You will drive the beverage and food. You are the chef, you must prepare the beverage and food. The bride and groom. You are the musician, you must be a part of wedding, yeah. So, sorry. So, what's my role here? Is to collaborate with all of you and deliver a maximum great wedding for bride and groom. I think that was good enough explanation. So from that day, I've never been the guy who's sending me emails all day. I'm the wedding planner, in the eyes of my friend, 100%. So it's scary, but it's much better than being the one who's sending emails all day. It's not right. And I'm going home from that event and I'm still upset because how I can explain to others what I'm doing with it. And I'm looking for help. Somewhere where we all looking for help. There are a million definitions what we do, what we really do. And the most common picture you can find on the internet when you're looking at Google is this one. And I saw it like one molecular, I don't know how, if I'm right word, but molecular, and they're all atoms. But I'll tell you one thing that I'm pretty sure. This is not a drawing by the product manager. Because if I want to present myself and what I'm doing, I want to draw the circle a bit like this, not a tiny little dot in the middle. Okay? If you must say your managers what you do, you wouldn't draw this tiny little dot and all that. So I think if I have an opportunity to draw a picture like this, and now I have an opportunity to draw it for you, I'll draw something different but the same. Something like this. So it's actually the same picture. But I'm on the product manager. And when you look at the picture like this, when drawing, it's obviously missing 1,000 things. Because we are not doing only collaborate between these three areas. We're doing daily 1,000 things. So behind the core, what we do, and it's making decision, I add only a few. What we actually, and I'm doing in corporation on a daily basis. So it's sales support. No one on the company can know better the product than the product manager itself. And I can bet on it that the product manager can deliver the best sales pitch for that one product that can be. So on a daily basis, we're supporting in B2B, we're supporting our sales managers and sales representatives in the sales tasks. This legal and regulations. So there, I have a day that I'm feeling that I must be aware to be a product manager. I don't know why. And for me, I'll tell you honestly, it's a pain in the ass. But we must do it every day. Legal contracts, GDPR. We must do it every day. Next circle is a partnership. We in a big company have a lot of partners. They are not falling from the trees. We must be in relationship with partners, talk with partners on everyday basis. So it's a huge time spent also on the partnership. Communication. So everyone expects that the product manager has great communication. We must be political speakers. We must be, I don't know what, but we must be a great communicator. We must have a great communication skill so we can move on to the product. And at the end of the day, we are all responsible for profit and losses. And you know all, when you deliver a profit, the whole product team is great. All managers are great. But if you deliver some losses, product manager is great. And when I add all these things, it's only a few of our 1,000 tasks we do all day. Now I can smile. So if you agree with me, this picture looks much better than this molecular on the floor. And that's actually what we really do. But I'm not stop there because I want to know actually, I'm doing that all day, I'm doing a job of product manager, but I want to know how to explain what I am. Who is the product manager? Who we are. So I'm also looking on the Google. And one of the pretty easy definition is the CEO of the product. Oh, great. But can we replace? Can we put this in email or in signages? Can we update a LinkedIn profile with this? But have we the similar responsibility as CEO? Probably maybe. I don't know this guy by the way. But they're digging more, and I find another. I can read this actually. But okay, I will read it for you. Product manager articulate and lead product strategies that achieve business objectives are technically feasible and meet customer needs. Yes, we all agree with that. But try to imagine that I said these definitions to my truck driving friend. I wouldn't be any better wedding planner anymore. But okay, it's all right. All definitions is great, and we all agree with that. But it's actually not definition, but it's a match that I want to find on the internet. So I'm looking for other places, the new places where we all go is ChatGPT, and that they get to me this kind of definition. Also right, but also means nothing. I think the Google or ChatGPT is also lawyers, I don't know, because they tell us a lot, but nothing. And if you look at any definitions, what we do, what we are actually, they are always included hard skills and expertise. But no one mentioned the soft skill what we must do all day, every day. So I find three little things that I want to highlight from my perspective, and I want to translate to you. Passion. Another story. Before 1 month, I came to work. And a very, very good friend of mine and my colleague who's sitting here in the audience, also coming to the office and bring the laptop in one hand, in the other hand, bring a toolbox. He's also product manager. Toolbox, screwdriver, hammer, I don't know, maybe some other stuff I can speak in English. Okay? And I'm asking him wordlessly, sorry. So I'm asking, please explain me. I can't believe that. Okay. He's driving the product, something like fleet solution, and we track the cars and GPS and everything. And part of that product is a cloud-based product, but part of that is a little plastic box like hardware with SIM inside, and the sales representative has a huge opportunity, but the customers say, I need a proof of concept today, and I need that today. And we have an available technician on the field. They're also allowed for a month. So what he's doing, he took the toolbox from home, sit in the car and go at the customer, do installation in the car, and show the customer the software and how can he track the car scenario. So this is the passion I'm talking about. And I think that actually without passion, we don't exist like product managers. Or we are so passionate or we are not, I don't know. We are not right. The second part is one I know. It's a chameleon. So try to figure it out how many times on one day we must adapt to something. It's enormous. We must adapt on and depend on the customer. We must adapt of internal for internal stakeholders, external stakeholders. We must adapt for something if weather is bad or if weather is good. If CEO is not is in a bad mood, we must adapt something. So if you ask me, compare the product manager with one animal, that would definitely chameleon. And I read something that we all, as a human being, rise from the Homo sapiens. I would say that the product manager can rise from hybrid, from Homo sapiens and chameleon, so it's 100%. And the third part is a superhero. I know you all think what he's talking about, but another fast story. When I was a little, my wish was to be a pilot. And I look like this, but this time small. We have expression in Croatia here is like tabre, if you know what I mean, like around the chair. And my father has an enormous sense of humor. It's so weird. And I said, Dad, I want to be a pilot. Nah, you cannot be a pilot. But why, Dad? Your mom always said to me, if I work hard, put a lot of effort, I can be anything, whatever. Yeah, that's mama. But why, Dad? Why I cannot be? Okay, I'll explain it to you. So you know how to airplane flies, yeah. They can fly like this. Thank you, Dad. Why I'm telling this story? Because if you ask a child what you want to be when you grow up, it's 100% that not even one child in the world will say, I want to be a product manager. No way. They all want to be some heroes, I don't know. And when I'm thinking about that, I try to explain my little son, 5 years old, what I'm doing. Not okay. I said, and I must think why I can be a superhero, for example. But then I think we are kind of superheroes. Because this morning, I'm late for two speeches in front because I have a huge escalation. And then I said, okay, but there are a lot of fire. If we turn off the fires, we have firemen. Firemen, when you ask a child, fireman is a superhero. When the company expects from us, then we read the mind of our customers, what we are. Charles, Xavier, on the same page. So definitely in some kind of weird way, we are some kind of superheroes. And that's 100%. So when I cover all this and I'm telling you all this, and this actually is my feeling, my emotion to you, I can introduce myself because I'm not doing that still. So hi guys. I'm a passionate chameleon who acting to be a superhero every day. My name is Igor and I'm the product manager. Thank you.
Guys, you wanted some questions for Igor, of course. At least he's loyal HTT. Who's the guy with the toolbox?
Yeah, with the screwdriver.
Who is it with the screwdriver? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are there any questions? Okay, then when I was little, I didn't want to be a conference moderator. I also wanted to be a superhero.
Yeah.
But we can make it for them. We are going to be 2 superheroes. So, do you see the gentleman over there with the coffee machine?
Oh, he is a superhero.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're a superhero. So, until 15:30, we're going on it on time, it's like 60, 70 minutes.
No.
Yes. By the schedule, by the book. Yes, by the book.
No.
Fran, you want to be the conference moderator on the next one, right? You don't,
I want to be
okay.
the product
So,
manager.
the coffee machines are there and not 2 stories below, so you can have a quick coffee or a quick smoke if you do so. And we're gonna continue 7-8 minutes and right back for the panel because everybody wants to go home, right? So you don't want a half an hour break. Am I right? Good. Never contradict the boss.
Dai, nakon dopo. Basta, bilo je 5.
So you're going to Please, I know, could it be better? Ne, pa reći sebe da ostane. E deixa a panela. Tu lascia-mi scuso.
Proba. On je čuti svoj. Dame i gospodo, izvolite.
Evo, došli smo skoro do kraja programa. Dakle, ova trojka kaže da sve što ste do sad čuli ova 2 dana zaboravite, da ćemo ovdje sad sve ispočetka reći kako stvari trebaju funkcionirati na hrvatskom. Dakle, naša kolegica English je otišla, tako da
da možemo upoznati malo više. Evo, još jedan pozdravljam moje goste, Marijana Jurčić, Group Digital Excellence Unicredit Republic, Milan. Luka Kverleš, ono što malo prije čuli, CTO i Agile Coach sa lijepim iskustvom. I Tatjana Kotarski, coach, mentor, trainer, hotels in project manager. Project manager, da. Pa ajmo krenuti sa ozbiljnim pitanjima. Dakle, Luka, tvoja ljubav prema product managerima na ljestvici od 1 do 10, jesi trenutno?
Trenutno sam vrlo visoko, jer pol posla ja moram određivati kao product manager, pola moram partner, onda moram sam sebe voliti, pa sam negdje na 9, onako, dobar dan sam na 9, na loš dan sam na 7, sam se ljubavi prema sebi.
Znači još sam in progress.
I još sam in progress, još moram gledati na product management na sebi.
A što, moram to pitati, a tvoja ljubav prema projekt menadžerima? Imaš 3 PMP-a ovdje.
Nemam project manager, tako da moja ljubav prema project managerima je 100% ili nemam, ne, to je drugi dio ono što sam bio pričao, znači produkt i rezultat projekta. Svako radimo projekt i uvijek ima neko ko je project manager, makar možda to nije rola ili nije ne znam šta, ali neko ko se bavi s time da se taj projekt dovede do kraja. Mi nemamo recimo od sebe roli project managera, ali osoba koja je preuzela odgovornost da isporuči nešto, on je de facto project manager za to i odgovoran da se to isporuči sa svim svojim stvarima koje ima. Mi smo formalni u tim kontekstima, nemamo nekih nekih plana, ali dalje sve te stvari postoje. Postoje neko očekivanje datuma, postoje neko očekivanje kvalitete, postoje neko očekivanje nečeg dobiti sad ne znam koliko dana i tako dalje, i tako dalje. Znači, ja bih rekao, ja sam više sklon nekakvom intenzivnom product managementu, ako nije baš nužno. Ako je nužno, u drugom slučaju je potrebno. Da, treba postojati ljudi koji su project manageri, i meni oni ti govore project manager.
Zaboravite.
Ja sam mislim tek riješio sam, nema čekaj, ja sam zašto sam iz ovih svih ljudi, ne znam sam.
Tatjana, tvoja perspektiva kao projekt manager, imaš jako bogato iskustvo u roli projekt menadžera, u saradnji sa različitim timovima, razvojem proizvoda i tako dalje. Tvoja ljubav prema produkt menadžerima, na kojoj si ti ljestvici, jesi u nižoj razini više, koja su neka tvoja iskustva? Zapravo suradnje i tog nekog overlappinga, preklapanja, možda nekakvih i uloga i odgovornosti u tom procesu razvoja ili redizajna proizvoda.
Pa u biti ja jako volim product menadžere zato što su oni preuzeli dio uloge project menadžera, kao što je Luka rekao. Znači što product menadžeri više rade, project menadžeri imaju manje posla. Pa u biti svatko ima nekakvu svoju ulogu. U velikim timovima u kojima radim zapravo ne samo jedan product menadžer, ima ih više. Jer zapravo se radi kroz više različitih proizvoda, se nekakav end-to-end proces treba, ajmo reći, implementirati i u konačnici skup svih nekakvih proizvoda i usluga daju finalni proizvod i uslugu klijentu. I u tom kontekstu jučer je kolega spomenuo Krešo da zapravo treba postati nekakav lider. I on zapravo ima različiti dio, vidjeli smo, i skillova, bez obzira kako se on zove. Može biti project manager, product manager, delivery ili value stream manager i tako dalje. Tako da svakako volim raditi s kolegama product managerima, pogotovo onima koji znaju viziju i koji znaju zapravo tu viziju implementirati kroz određeni projekt, jer onda uveliko pomažu project manager u organizacijama u kojima on još uvijek postoji, zapravo da daju najveću vrijednost klijentu, što možda project manager sam po sebi nema dovoljan dio tih kompetencija i na taj način se onda nadopunjuju. I zapravo ta suradnja onda zapravo može biti odlična.
Da, dobro, kad pričamo o kompetencijama, a kompetencije su skup i znanja, nekakvog iskustva, ja, i vještina. Sad, o tim vještinama, znači vještine nisu, nam uvijek najviše fokus na vještini i metodologiji razvoja samog proizvoda, usluge, procesa, što god. A postoji još tu niz drugih skillova koji su bitni, ja, a koji imaju impact na sam razvoj proizvoda. Marijana, neko tvoje iskustvo oko skillova i zanima me, evo, vi ste kao banka prošli niz transformacija, promjena, metodološki organizacijski okvir. Na nekakvoj top ljestvici prioriteta edukacija, odnosno fokusa, pitanja tih skillova, što je?
Ja bih rekla prije svega komunikacija. Nekakva zdrava komunikacija koja vodi transparentnosti i to onda zapravo garantira da se stvari lakše obavljaju. Ako nema nekakvih nedorečenih stvari koje su vrlo često prisutne, naročito u IT svijetu, onda, a nedorečenim smislu ono što smo imali kao u jednom trenu, da li su IT-evci introverti ili nisu, po definiciji jesu ili nisu. Iz mog iskustva imala sam slučajeve gdje su ljudi selektirani za product ownere, znači ne product managere, nego product ownere, znači vrhunski developeri koji su kad su i poznavali proizvoda, da se razumijemo. Međutim, kad smo prošli s njima kroz ulogu product ownera, onda je prva reakcija bila ne, ja ne želim raditi kao product owner, ja sam developer, ja to ne želim raditi. Onda je bila situacija gdje smo probali na neki način osnažiti te ljude, da se zapravo imamo uhvatili možda preko neki novi izazov. Imam iskustva gdje su ljudi bili izvrsni product owneri i stvarno prihvatili svoju ulogu kako treba. To su ljudi koji po prirodi imaju nekakve i komunikacijske vještine i vještine nekakve problem solving, znači oni su savršeno dali posao. A imali smo recimo slučaj baš konkretno kod product ownera koji je rekao ne, ja to ne bi radio, on je kao ajde ipak bude. Gdje god je moglo zapet, je zapet. Znači on jednostavno ulogu product ownera nije u potpunosti bio sposoban odraditi. Znači kad je bio problem, nismo ga rješavali unutar tima, znači Scrum team nismo rješavali, ja sam tada bila Scrum master. Njega se jednostavno nije moglo uvjeriti ni na koji način da smo mi zapravo tim i da mi sve možemo riješiti. On je rekao, ne, ja imam svog menadžera, ja ću odlično njemu plakati. Onda je svaki čas odlazio ti menadžeru plakati. Onda je čak uključivao i bivšeg menadžera koji jako dobro poznam taj tim. I na kraju se cijela priča raspala.
Da je sad to konkretno vezano, kako rekao, kompetencije tog kolege, njegov kapacitet u tom dijelu posla. Ili je to recimo jedan nekakav problem koji se kroz zajednički nazivnik provlači do sve timove?
Ne, nije, ovo je izdvojeni slučaj. Čovjek je definitivno bio za sve samo ne za komunikaciju. Njemu kad je nešto prelilo čašu, on je rekao dobro, ok, ja sam odbičio, otišao iz škola, da li je to bio mail, da li je bio refinement, šta god, on jednostavno samo se pokupio i otišao. Meni to prvi par puta bilo čudno, dok nisu poslije nekako, to ti je normalno, pusti, on će se skupa pa će se raditi. Ali jednostavno to nije način koji je uopće bio zdrav za život. Znači, njemu je definitivno pali tih nekakvih soft skillova, na stranu njegove velike kompetencije u programiranju i poznavanju proizvoda, ovaj dio nam baš
se dio govoriš. Tako.
Da, mislim da je jučer baš Lidija nam je otišla. Na prvom panelu Lidija je netko spomenuo, problemi sa kompetencijama, kad su nekakvi problemi, kako to iznijeti, samo organizacija, pa je da, Krešo je rekao, uvijek moraš imati nekog koji je lider u tom timu, samo organizacija, to baš ne funkcionira. I je neko poentirao, trebaš naći prave ljude koji mogu to, koji jesu za to, nisu svi za sve, tako. Sad i jako je bitan taj skill kod menadžera, tim lidera, kod već formira timove, prepoznat ko fita nešto, ko meni jednostavno ne možeš nametnuti tu ulogu u kojoj neće dati maksimum.
Mogu ja možda samo nadopuniti ovo iz perspektive trenera, zato što u zadnje vrijeme baš je dosta upita o treninzima razvoja tima i leadership vještinama i sad ljudi mi prelaze iz razloga što imam to iskustvo i radi na projektima, a to je ta domena industrija, pa kao evo daj nam nekakve savjete. Ono što sam primijetila, koliko god je taj nedostatak resursa u IT industriji, pa fali nam programera, fali nam zapravo svega, IT uzima ljude iz svih područja. U zadnje vrijeme je recimo dosta taj trend da poslodavci, barem moje iskustvo, poslodavci dosta razmišljaju, ok, nije nam sad više bitno zaposliti bilo koga, odnosno da li taj neko koga ćemo zaposliti će fitati u timu. I onda kad zaposle čovjeka, često prvo traže taj nekakav trening forminga i storminga tima, odnosno razvoja tima, kad je tim u fazi forminga. Jedan dio je zapravo komunikacijske vještine, drugi dio je kako postaviti nekakva pravila ponašanja i ground rules unutar samog tima, kako kod njih ove određene vještine, vidjeli smo donošenja odluka, kako u nekakvim konfliktnim situacijama reagirati. I na taj način zapravo napraviti taj nekakav prvotni, možda čak i neformalni, iako to bude trening, team building, gdje se ljudi zapravo onda tu puno bolje upoznaju i zapravo već vide koje su njihove nekakve snage, koja su im ograničenja i onda na tome nastave dalje raditi. Druga stvar je da se zapravo događa i da oni pojedinci koji se ne uklope u tim, ili to sami prepoznaju i u nekom trenutku sami odu, ili ih tim jednostavno, kako bih rekao, po prirodi eliminira. Samo postaviti. Dakle, evo, to je isto nešto što sam recimo primijetila iz ove druge perspektive prakse koju radim vezano za edukaciju.
Da, malo prije smo se na pauzi našalili, ako je metodologija dobra, nešto ne valja, izbaci ljude na...
Okej, definitivno, znači ljude nema više, to smo se riješili. Ali s druge strane, ovo što je govorimo o leadershipu, trenutno ćemo vjerojatno spraviti na godinu. Ali ja, kada razgovaram o hiringu ljudi za nekakve pozicije, product ownera, nešto tako što... Primarno je nekoga koji ima nekakvu prirodnu inclinaciju moći, koji ima neku prirodnu sposobnost moći. Dakle, leadership se može graditi, leadership se može ovo, ali to je primarna stvar koju ja recimo želim tražiti takvih ljudi. Sve ostale kompetencije, project management, product management, vizija, ne znam, šta god, se mogu dodavati kroz druge ljude koji će raditi u tom timu, koji će pomagati tom lideru, koji će raditi sa njim po privatnim testovima. Znači, recimo, napravljeno isto ljudima. Vrlo je teško danas kada razgovaramo o nekakvim menadžerima, od menadžera se očekuje da su lideri, komunikatori, imaju viziju, znaju upravljati s ljudima, znaju još, tehnički su dobri, znaju još 500 drugih stvari. To nije realno očekivati. I onda, između tih svih stvari, ovisno o ulozi, moramo izabrati šta, nam je ajmo tako reći, a sve ostalo dopuniti sa ljudima koji će mu pomagati. Znači, preuzimate odgovornosti od njega i on će imati, neki lider ima svoj tim koji zapravo cijeli tim ima kompetencije, ukupne kompetencije koje trebaju da se vodi određena organizacija. Kada govorimo nije moraš imati sve, ili ajmo raditi sve, jednostavno nije izvedivo, nego, ok, ajmo uzeti nešto gdje biti, ne recimo biti neki leadership, donošenje odluka, ajmo drive neki, a ostalo ćemo dopuniti sa ljudima koji su možda bolje u tom području.
Luka, ti imaš kilometre za sebe, a radio s raznim tvrtkama, timovima i coaching i svašta nešto. I sad, uglavnom developer. I sad, zanima me tvoje iskustvo i retrospektiva zapravo nekako tog development tržišta unazad 3 ili više godina. Sad nešto sad tu bitno promijenilo kad gledaš sad unazad 5 godina u smislu organizacije timova, što je u fokusu, što je ispalo, ne znam, evo, bilo što, nešto je sigurno.
Je, rekao da se puno se toga promijenilo, zadnjih 5 godina, ali ne bih rekao da se puno rezultata, znači se puno odgovorno, promijenilo se puno toga. Ovo što se hvali ljudi, svi mi, svega ovoga, onoga, šta ja znam, kompetencije, kako da se priči skila, tražiš se ovo, tražiš se ono. Ali u principu rezultati koje IT industrija postiže, ne vidim da su naši. Mi dalje radimo iste greške firme koje sam vidio naše radi, iste greške, vesele stvari, kada kažem jednostavno, jer mentalitet toga se nije po meni značajno. Znači, mi dalje mislimo, zaposlit ćemo 10 ljudi, daći ćemo 10 ljudi i 10 ljudi će producirati nešto dobro. Neće. Znači, ti 10 ljudi moraju biti, imati određeno iskustvo, recimo na IT-u se puno premalo iskustvo cijeli. Ljudi koji imaju 20 godina rade, imaju iskustvo, sve znaju puno toga, treba ih iskoristiti. Ljudi ne cijene dovoljno nekakve stare pokušane stvari, svi bi nešto novo, svi bi nešto divlje. I to se ponavlja, znači, prije 5 godina smo imali, ne znam, blockchain, danas imamo AI, prije 10 godina smo imali opet nešto, sad je neka novi hype, i ajmo sad ljudi po tome, sad ćemo svi po tome. I rezultat toga da će biti za par godina se pogledamo opet se radimo isto stvari. Većina ljudi danas, ću ja reći IT-u, kuca forme za luz, isto ono što smo kucali prije 20 godina. Ima nekakvi više logike, ima nekakvi više pametni možda iza toga, ali 90% posla.
To se zove drugim imenom, jel?
Ok, da, možemo zato drugo, možemo to cifra, ali to je otprilike to. I te stvari ima nekakve zakonitosti kako se radi. Mi se možemo tu lijevo malo desno, ali ne živi da puno previše se izmišlja to problem. Puno situacija, nego se ono što funkcionira i ono raditi ono što funkcionira. Danas imate firme koje počnu to kažu, nama ne treba optimizacija, nama ne treba testiranje, nama ne treba... Kako? To ne funkcionira. Znači, postoji način na koji se to radi i to je nešto što IT-u, svi misle da mogu raditi programiranje, svi misle da mogu raditi IT, svi misle da mogu isporučivati nešto, pa možeš. Pitanje do koje mjere, pitanje koliko dugo, pitanje kako, sve ima neki svoj plafon u koji se radiš. I ako u tom trenutku nemaš ljudi koji su prošli to, i nemaš ljudi koji to mogu spadati, onda si izmijenio. Završite se to desno. Tu je bilo ovo, prezentacija kad se vidio da ovi kredit, evo sad radi na svojoj transformaciji, i to je super pozitivno, mijenjati nešto. Ali s druge strane, ako govorimo o tim promjenama, Jira je software što je recimo 20 godina, nije ništa loše s njim, sve je to super, ali radimo opet na istoj, znači to je na nečemu što koristimo nešto što 20 godina stvari. I da to kažem, puno toga se promijenilo, puno toga nije.
Da.
Imamo Jiru 15 godina u kreditu i sad je zapravo tek publiciramo i tako.
Tako smo, znači su prošli, koliko, to je isto 30 godina stvari, nema koja, koliko, glavni čartovi su stvari da je 50 godina, znači, kada ti stvari, mi stalno izmišljamo nešto novo, a postoji, jednostavno stvari koje funkcioniraju i treba ih koristiti. I ne treba stalno gledati, mi smo posebni, mi smo odlučili, to se pinjala lokalno jako mnogo, mi smo posebni, nismo odlučili, ne nismo. Mi smo još jedno 1500 firmi koje rade ovdje iste greške koje su ljudi radili.
Da, dobro, to je dobar point, zapravo u produktnom managementu, da, sve što radimo unutar procesa produktnog managementa isto je već ovo 50 godina, samo nešto drugo u fokusu, ali kad gledamo, evo, dobar primjer je možda i životni ciklus produkta, znači ona krivulja, onaj maturity, pa da dole to više ne postoji, ti stalno tu krivulju moraš držati gore, stalno moraš nešto raditi, buildat, mijenjati, upgrade da bi ostalo gore, inače to gasiš, kakaš i ne više mu troši to. Da, Matej je malo isto dao jedan dobar, mislim, kroz onu svoju priču dao ovaj primjer koji se često događa u tvrtkama. Top menadžer ima ideju oko nekakvog produkta, novog rješenja i spusti na tim i odmah se zasluži u kavi na tome i onda kasnije problemi, zapravo onaj research koji se treba dogoditi puno prije ideje, jer treba ideju potvrditi, ok nije, zapravo sve ono vrijeme koje kasnije trošimo na korekcije i negdje u toku procesa razvoja radimo ono što smo trebali svi koraka prije. Tatjana, tvoja iskustva, što ti radiš kad dođe dobra ideja?
Moja iskustva, recimo, na radionicama napravim dobru vježbu simulacije kad radimo Scrum, ali sad trebamo kao sve one 4 nekakve ceremonije kroz neku igru odraditi. I onda kad ljudima doneseš plišance, Lego kockice, ne znam, nekakve šarene papiriće, svašta nešto, ja nosim te igračke na te radionice i onda oni što prvo naprave, uzmu lego kockice i krenu u sprint. Bez da su uopće napravili plan, složili backlog, ne, odmah se krenu nešto slagati i onda tek tamo negdje na trećem sprintu skuže, aha, i sad ja odboravam vrijeme, jel, tipa imam za vježbu 20 minuta i onda odboravam vrijeme i onda na trećem sprintu, joj, nemamo dovoljno vremena, šta ćemo sad, aha, idemo čitati upute, jel, i onda se vratimo u početak i onda krenu nešto planirati i kad imamo recimo takve slične vježbe na radionici, onda već drugi put da budu bolji, onda idu pročitati, pa idu napraviti nekakav plan, neki koncept i tako dalje. I onda ih ja zezam, jel tako radite i u stvarnom svijetu, odmah se bacite. Pa kad tako kažeš ono zapravo da. Onda vježba planiranja u smislu nemamo mi dovoljno vremena za planiranje. To mora biti brzo, jer menadžment je spustio ideju, to se mora realizirati, imamo 2 tjedna, tjedan dana, mjesec, nebitno koliko. I onda kad radimo vježbu planiranja, radimo na projektu koji recimo njima nije domenski, totalno neke druge industrije, koja traje 45 minuta i oni tu stvarno uspiju napraviti velik dio, rekla bih, svrhe samog nekakvog proizvoda ili projekta, ciljeva, čak nekakve high level roadmap, milestone i tako dalje u 45 minuta i onda im kažemo, ok, koliko ste sad uložili vremena, jer u temu kojoj niste ništa znali i uspjeli ste kao tim nešto napraviti, ajde zamislite sada na poslu uložite to vrijeme. Tako da u stvarnom životu kad dobijem nekakvu ideju koju treba dalje razraditi, uključena sam u toj fazi, reklo bi se i pre-salesa, ideizacije, discoverija, kako god da se zvala. Radim zajedno sa product ownerom, on je fokusiran na product, on je fokusiran na OKR-ove, na ovaj dio why, na ovaj dio what. Zajedno radimo na tome da dobijemo buy-in svih stakeholdera, on na svom nivou, ja na svom nivou kao nekakav tu ulozi recimo program menadžera. I s druge strane ja sam fokusirana na ovaj dio tipa how, kako ćemo to izvesti, kako ćemo složiti nekav roadmap, koji će nam biti timovi, koji su nam pravi ljudi, koje ljude želimo dobiti u tim. I onda zapravo sinergijom nas dvoje, recimo evo sad jedan primjer dvoje, nekad ih bude više product ownera, zapravo napravimo, ajmo reći, ja to reći da materializiramo tu ideju kroz nekakvu strategiju i nekakav opipljivi roadmap, dokument, requirement, kako god se to zvalo, tako da možemo dalje komunicirati prema i timu i ostalim stakeholderima što s tim želimo postići. I onda na taj način, zapravo ako to dobro napravimo, a to je najteži korak, ako to dobro napravimo, ako se mi razumijemo, onda sve ovo dalje zapravo ide puno lakše, onda imamo zajedničku sliku i zajednički nastupamo i komuniciramo šta nam je neka, kako ćemo zapravo viziju mi dalje implementirati.
Dobro, scoping i u HR-u i tradicionalno scoping je poanta da sve što kiksamo, a pričamo cijelo vrijeme o tome da gradimo, razvijamo value, znači vrijednost za krajnjeg korisnika. Ako te vrijednosti nema, onda taj produkt neće ispuniti definitivno neke KPI-eve, metrike koje smo zamislili, planirali.
Samo nešto još da kažem i vraćam mikrofon. Dosta bitna stvar isto koju volim objasniti je razlika što je product scope, što je nekakav project scope. Jer product manager je dosta fokusiran na taj product scope. Tko su nam nekakvi klijenti, koji će nam feature biti, da pričamo o funkcionalnim nekakvim featurima samog produkta, međutim sve ono okolo što treba zadovoljiti, vidjeli smo security, regulativa, nekakav marketing, komunikacija sa salesom i tako dalje, recimo dosta su onako sporedne aktivnosti, jer je veliki fokus na produkt i onda tu isto je dobro da ima nekoga ko će mu zapravo tu pomoć u tom dijelu, da se i taj dio strukturira, jer ne možemo možda taj proizvod izbaciti na tržište ako nismo zadovoljili sve druge stvari koje nazivati recimo non-functional requirement ili nekakve još aktivnosti koje tu treba napraviti u putu.
Mislim, ja mogu nadovezati ovo što je Tatjana rekla, je isto i kod nas prisutno, ali mislim da zato što krećemo sa implementacijom, znači krećemo sa prelaskom na Agile,
na već postojećim timovima i na postojećim produktima. I onda se podrazumijeva da se sve zna. Onda je gubitak vremena, sad ćemo se mi baviti opisivanjem proizvoda ili ne znam, vizijom, strategijom ili nešto, nego ono, ajmo mi sad damo vijeće, mi sve znamo. I onda zapravo je tu vjerojatno greška u koracima, ne krećemo sa novim proizvodom, pa ajmo odmah većem, nego na postojećim. I onda tu zapravo neki dio fale. Isto iskustveno i mi smatramo da je na neki način i normalno da timovi koji počinju raditi zajedno, znači novi timovi koji prelaze na agile, da nam uvijek treba 2 do 3 sprinta da se ušemimo. Znači to bez obzira na postojećem proizvodu ili ne, jednostavno timovi nisu uspijevali prije nekog 3. sprinta pohvatati, jer ti zapravo i neke evente imaš koji se dogode možda 1-2 put, znači trebaš ih određeni broj puta ponoviti da bi se to kvalitetno izvelo, a da ne kažem recimo gdje smo imali situacije gdje se ljudi ne otvaraju dovoljno, znači retrospektive koje su u početku vrlo rezervirane, a nakon 2-3 sprinta ljudi se otvore, pa tu već
Kada muka, onda još
onda sad čekam retrospektivu, sad ću to napisati, to ću napisati. Dakle, mislim da treba neki period da se ustabili isto.
Ja sam učitelj ono što je mi rekla, ja sam u prirodi neka osoba koja će, što se tiče prvenstveno IT politiku, skočiti u stvari u projektu bez puta. Ajmo sad napraviti što god, poklopit će nas po glavi, pa ćemo popraviti, idemo tako. I čujemo svoje dobre i loše strane, što god, ne? Ono što je zapravo tu najzanimljivije u toj cijeloj priči je, za to vjerojatno dolazi od toga zašto postoji development. Zato što u developmentu vam je to instant satisfaction. Ti napucaš neki kod, pokreneš to radi, to da nešto, i wow, znaš, sad opet nešto mijeniš, to opet nešto radi, wow. I onda dolaziš u poziciju da si menadžer i ljudi tako. Gdje oni dođu tako, gledaš, ja što sam napravio, super, pa sad ti već, znači ti pa ok, super, i kada već sad radimo s njime, ko će to održavati, nećemo to deployat, da će ti ljudi znati koristiti, ti su, znaš, sad milion novih stvari, koje tako vam rekla sa strane, oni su toliko napravljeni, sad ti moraš doći će ljudi, ok, ali stani, sad radimo ovih 10 drugih stvari koje moramo napraviti, non-function requirementa, ne? Sad moramo sve to napraviti da bi zapravo to što ste vi napisali u jedan dan, iskoristili za nešto da se bude korisno, ne? I to onako ubije dosta bolje svima po redu, ne? Zato što ljudi vole to, ljudi, ja sam napravio nešto koje to je, ajmo reći, programiranje je on veće i znači, i legitimnost i legitimno složiti se nešto i napravio sam nešto, super, ima i kasno. Ali on ima taj nastav, kako doći do toga koda, toga nešto što će funkcionirati, do toga da to još je usable product od neke treće osobe, neke treće strane i šta se to moraš pokriti za tim. Tu je veliki dio izazova, to kad ljudi kažu kako mi da uspijemo s produktom. Znači, mi po uspjeti možemo napraviti čuda. A da li to je što korisno, da li mi možemo gurnuti produkt, da li neko to koristi?
Sad je to, znači, sad dolazimo do pitanja, o tome smo dosta diskutirali, o strategiji, viziji. Kao development team zna što je vizija, ali vrlo često nismo sigurno koliko razumije koja je zaista prava vizija, koji je kontekst tog produkta. A kad pričamo o kontekstu, onda se ide puno šire, i ono ko ti je konkurent, što se događa u industriji tog produkta i tako dalje. Puno šire, na razini čak i znanja, odnosno znanja produkt menadžera.
Ok, ali govorit možda je da ljudi ne razumiju, mislim, ja mi za ovo nužno razumiju. Znači svaka ta osoba, gdje god se nalazi do nekog hijerarhije produkta, što već, donosi odluke na razini dana, tjedna, ovoga, te odluke mogu imati reperkusiju za 6 mjeseci. I ako oni ne razumiju taj kontekst i industriju u kojoj se nalazi, zašto to rade i ko su korisnici, šta ja znam, dolaziš do drugog. Znači, to mogu biti banalne stvari, znači, da li ćemo mi ovo predvidjeti da se ovaj komad koda može kasnije ekstendati sa nečim. Neće to niko neće tako misliti. Ali ako nemaš taj kontekst, vidite na čemu stoji, ti si napravili neke assumptione koje izvuku si ih kod drugog. Prema tome, zato je, recimo, preferiram za te organizacije, šta znam, jer svi mi, kad god smo radili sa nekim developerom, ili bilo čim, da vam je neko radio doma nešto, najbolje iskustvo u meni bilo kad ste rekli, dajte dođi tu kod mene sjedi i napravili to što ti ja sad reći, on će ti preskudirao, pa si ti pogledao, pa si rekao, treba se to tako napravili i iznaknirali u 2 dana. I to je bilo najbolje iskustvo, jer to je bilo najbrže. On nije morao različiti u kontekstu, ti nisi morao pisati nekakve specke, to je ono što žele. I sad pitam samo kako to omogućiti na nekom velikom skimu. Kako dobiti to da ja dobijem svog poslovnog koji će meni tamo nešto ne? I to je, i kako dobiti da to neko kasnije može podavati, šta znam. To je jedan veliki izazov u developmentu koji se pokušavamo riješiti sa javnim smetskim, ne znam, ovakvim testiranjem, onakvim testiranjem, discovery, šta ja znam, ali u meni nema zamjena za to. Istudirao sam nešto, pokažem da vam korisniku, ne htio dati feedback i da ti se ukrugu do došla. Sve ostalo je, meni više to služi da sami sebe nije opravdano da imamo veliku organizaciju, moramo to upraviti 100.000 ljudi i šta ja znam. Umjesto da nešto malo se fokusiramo na to jednu stvar.
Pa ništa, developera za ruku, na sprint demo. Prvi put će možda malo biti neugodno, nakon puno ponavljanja će biti ok. Da, nema druge, da. Znači, u agilnom pričamo o samoorganiziranim timovi, autonomija, donošenje odluka, cross-functional timovi, pa treba imati dubinu znanja, širinu znanja. Cijenimo ljude koji imaju dubinu i širinu znanja, pa dobri smo u jednoj disciplini, ali dovoljno dugo znamo i druge discipline i kontekst u kojem radimo. Ista stvar važi za developere, slažem se s Lukom, najbolje kad dobiješ ovog jednog koji zna sve, onda je on tvoj čovjek i svode ga učeš sa sobom i s takvim ti je najdraže raditi. Prošla sam jako puno, i juniora i seniora i enterprise arhitekata i uvijek nekako mislim da uče s iskustvom i nisu i kako rastu i napreduju kao i mi u svojim ulogama, tako i developeri, samo im treba dati priliku i vjerujte i oni vole visibility. I kad ih dovedemo, kad oni mogu nešto pokazati što su napravili, s tim ćemo mi zapravo dobiti i accountability i commitment i oni će se osjećati korisno. Dok mi ih držimo u nekakvom laboratoriju, oni će se tamo nešto igrati, međutim kada dođu pred korisnika, u tom trenutku će oni preuzeti odgovornost i nakon toga je skroz druga priča. Tako da evo, to je nešto što prakticiram i stvarno funkcionira.
Pričamo o njima, nema nekih koraka,
Ali, smo to su pričali za ruču, voli veliki motivator, ti je podiš od korisnika i tamo korisnik popljuje i da već ne doći što ste napravili, drugi put si puno više motivirani da napraviš nešto drugčije, da napraviš nešto i ako to ne možeš da pokušaviš nekog svog proksija, probability tamo se razvarati, ti nas nešto tu voli. To što funkcioni da popljuvali na prodam provera, onda je prodam tome došla, tebi je dalje super. Evo, ja nisam nikako to osjetio, ali super, ja ne mislim da smo mi super. Tako da taj exposure da ti snosiš, da kažem, posljedice za svoje odluke, svoja djela, ovo, je iznimno bitna stvar. I mnogo je teško stvoriti nekakve personalne responsibility ako toga nema. Ako ti uvijek možeš pokazati, on je kriv, pa si izoliran, pa nekako...
Ja ne čak ne rekla taj blame game pred korisnikom, nego je čisto stvar da će on tog korisnika napokon doživjeti kao svojeg. Mi radimo za njega, mi njemu nešto kak je stvarno vidjeli, ovako je on njemu virtualan i to je nekakav korisnik, kad stvarno zna da je korisnik Marina, drugačije će se nekako postaviti u radu.
Mi smo recimo uspjeli da se nadovežem kod timova koji dobro funkcioniraju stranu, znači svakakvih, ali imamo lijepih primjera. Kod njih smo uspjeli postići da stvarno na njihove reviewove dolaze klijenti, pričamo o interni, znači to su naši razvojni timovi koji rade aplikacije ili dijelove za osnovne dijelove organizacije. Znači dolaze i korisnici, to su njima klijenti, a dolaze isto i na refinemente,
Znači kad definiramo šta će se raditi, oni su tu kao pomoć zapravo za njih radimo. Ali smo se isto dosta dugo govorili oko toga. S nekim timovima je bilo gotovo nemoguće postići, pa smo na kraju ajde pustili. Da neko dođe na njihov review, šta će vam misle to njima pokazivati, zašto bi sad to moraju biti? Mi smo to istudirali, stavili smo tada negdje čuči i šta ćemo sad mi njih objašnjavati. Onda smo pokušali objasniti da zapravo je to nekakav zapravo event, ajmo reći proslave zapravo, da bi ti trebao prezentirati svoj rad i da bi mi svi trebali zajednički proslaviti, kako to možda bio komadić softvera. To sam recimo stvarno u nekom prvom susretu sa Angelom u Zabi, kad su stvarno to radili i to mi je stvarno bilo super. Znači, baš se na taj dio lijepo radio prije.
Marijana, a tvoje iskustvo, znači, radila su u Zagrebu, dolaziš iz Zagreba, pa sam preselila u Beč sa obitelji, ok, sve unutar grupacije, ali kao naciji smo različiti, drugačiji smo mentaliteti i načini rada, razmišljanja, znači, Austrijanci, Hrvatska, Italijani. Koja su tvoja iskustva? Da li postoji zapravo nekakva razlika u tom mindsetu, pristupu razvoja u odnosu na nekakve geografske područje, jer to ne
postoji i to svi otvoreno znamo. Znači to što znači da sam bila u Beču, sam radila na toj C regiji, znači sve ove naše bliske zemlje, bivše Jugoslavije, Bugarska, Rumunjska, Češka, Slovačka i to. Znači sve točno se znalo ko na kakav način nastupa, kako odrađuje posao i to je stvarno bilo, ne da smo mi to pričali kao nekakav legendu, nego je stvarno bilo tako. Znači točno postoji obrazac ponašanja, recimo mogu odmah otvoreno reći za Hrvate, da slove kao izuzetno dobri radnici, slove kao ljudi koji uvijek imaju super rješenja, super delivery, ali ono što mene osobno jako boli, ja to drugačije osjetim, sales marketing 0 bodova. Tako da radite malo na tome, zavrano isporučivala izvrsne stvari, ali praktički se nije znalo. Dok ima nacija koje upakiraju ništa, ali su svijete. Dakle, to ono što nama mislim po Hrvatima stvarno ali dotiraju stvarno dobro, zna se da kad bi nešto Hrvatska isporučivala i kad se odlučivalo nešto u projektu, da je to stvarno bilo zapravo više napravljeno od ono što se prezentiralo. Dakle, recimo, ja sam imala kolegicu iz Zagreba koja je radila u tom odličenom projektu koji sam tada vodila. I kad ja ona znala se mi pišeti nešto, ona mi kaže, ja kažem, a zašto niste stavili u statusni projekt? A joj, da, mogla sam i to. Pa da, joj, što projekt stavit ću? Ja kažem, pa ne, ovo ništa, znam da nismo stavili ništa, stavili neke konkretne brojeve, daj ovo malo, ne. Tako da, definitivno da, različiti je.
Je, nisam stvarno kažem to, tako da je to na nekako naravno. Tako neke povijesti.
Da, povijest nas prati, ne znam, sve što recimo kažu Hrvatska odrađuje, kako se reklo, drugi pokušavaju mijenjati. A imamo recimo i situacije gdje stvarno je s nekim timovima poprilično teško upravljati, jer možete pretpostaviti koje su zemlje u pitanju, znači imamo i Austriju, Njemačku, Italiju i sve tamo taj dio zapadnog svijeta koji za svaku stvar koju pokušate uvesti, sad ćemo mi pitati radničko vijeće. Znači, do te razine da je story points su bili na razini radničkog vijeća i ne koriste ih, jer je to metoda koju mi možemo mjeriti uspješno stimova i koliko ko isporučuje i koliko ko radi. Pokušavali smo ne znam kolikim naporima objasniti da to nema veze s tim, da to nije uopće metrika ni za koga nego za tim i da će to pomoći timu i da te informacije ostaju unutar tima, znači ono u Confluencu i Jiri samo na razini tima, niko drugi ne vidi. Ali vide admin i Jire, vide ove i nije nam prošle. Dakle, stvarno svaka stvar promenila mi ide u radničko vijeće. Dakle, da, nije nego problem. Svašta izgledali.
Ok, ja bih za kraj stavila jedno pitanje koje ću posvetiti direktoru posljednici. Nije pitanje za tebe, nego za njih, ali posvećeno tebi. Dakle, jer si reagirao na to. Dakle, odbor danas se dosta spominjala metodologije, pričali smo o tome, neki spikeri su skloni više agile, neki waterfallu, neki su rekli da mi radimo tradicionalno, drugačije ne može, jer mora biti tako s obzirom na prirodu posla, produkta i tako dalje. Opet dolazi taj human-centric design, sve više se posvećuje pažnje, researchu, istraživanju, ponašanju korisnika, znači ulazimo u psihologiju korisnika, kako se ponaša, kako donosi odluke, zašto tako razmišlja, tako dalje, i to unosimo u naš razvoj, bez obzira na IT, non-IT. Sad, jesmo napokon ubili tu diskusiju Agile vs Waterfall. For you, da. Ili, ajde. Ajde, nemoj puhat.
Pa ne, po meni je dosta bilo ovako jedna infantilna uopće razglednica od početka.
Mislim, održali su konferencije na tu temu.
I to je suludo, znači to je dosta spravljanje boja plava i crvena boja, strašno, znači imaš tako izgleda zove da je crvena boja, imaš tako jedna je plava. Znači, jedno i drugo imaju sve stvari, ali poanta je tome da Waterfall, kako se opisuje Waterfall kao metodologija, postoji radili mi skramljene. On je dalje ušao skram postoji. Dalje ti imaš unutar skram, sprinta, čak imaš, ajmo nešto isplanirati, ajmo nešto izidjenirati, ajmo nešto implementirati, ajmo nešto asistirati, ajmo nešto isporučiti na kraju. Znači, opet imaš to isto. Borba između tih stvari je bez veze. I to će se toliko vremena na to da to nema smisla. Radiš ono što trebaš napraviti. Jedino po meni što je bitno, ako već razgovaramo o user-centered dizajnu ili kako da zvali, da napraviš što prije, možda to staviš kod korisnika, da dobiješ feedback i to napraviš ime. Sve drugo je onako bez veze, probitak to ne napraviti. Velike spletske, mislim da recimo baš napraviti kontrakting neki, gdje korisnik od nas traži, ja možem imati spletske u SMR. Mi rešavamo, super, možemo staviti. Ti neće vidjeti da se rezultatom na kraju projekta neće biti sretni. Možemo to staviti unutra. To je loše, ne? Za vas, ne za nas. Da li je to Waterfall, nije bitno, mi ćemo to izvršavati u nekakvim sprintovima, što god, ali... A cijela priča se radi samo o tome da se prihvatimo stvari. Mi ne znamo kako će biti konačni output, kako to treba na kraju izgledati, mi ne znamo šta je u ovom trenutku, ne znamo šta će dobro funkcionirati, šta neće dobro funkcionirati, i tako je, kad prihvatiš to kao underlying assumption, sve što radiš, stvari postanu jednostavno. Da kažeš, ok, ne znam, i javimo sad.
Ok, uglavnom, ajmo reći da je vrijeme da tu diskusiju spremimo u ladicu, jel? I svak treba osjetiti, svaka firma, svaki tim svoju metodologiju, osjetiti to, mora pitati jako jedan kakav jesi, što radiš i se zagodan, jesi, ok. Dobro, hvala vam ljudi. Evo, hvala Gorane tebi na organizaciju ove konferencije koju smo priliku u ime svih nas i hvala svima na ova divna 2 dana kooperativna dana.
Vi nas smo sad zaključili, Goran je zadovoljan, konferencija uspjela. Ali dodat će jako dobro pitanje koliko ste vi zadovoljni. To nekako, ok, možda jedan nije parametar da vas prebrojimo koliko vas ovdje ostalo, pa neki postotak u odnosu koliko nas je bilo jučer ujutro, plus oni koji su stvarno morali otići na posao, a neki su otišli u Rovinj, a neki su imali druge obiteljske obveze. U svakom slučaju vidimo se sljedeće godine, stvarno kod voljim predavačima i sad koji su budući predavači doći će pozivi. Za sve ove ostale da veselimo se sljedeće godine, Goran će odlučiti da li će to biti Opatija, negdje drugdje ili će možda ipak biti Zagreb, radi onih jednostavnih poslepodnevnih naših obaveza. Vama svima veliki pozdrav. Sad, jeste li vi superheroji ili niste, nek Igor procijeni. Igore, zatvori, jeste li superheroji ili niste? Apsolutno super heroji, ugodno još današnji dan, sretan put i vidimo se sljedeće godine.